Hello, children. Last session, we had done the start of dictionaries. We had learned about that, what's the difference between list and dictionary, how we create a dictionary, how do we access the elements of the dictionary. And today we study further to that. Okay, so let's start. Now, last class, I'll just quickly go through. We had done that in the case of dictionaries, we can give our own key values, whereas in the case of lists, we have the default indexes, which we also call as the keys to access my elements from the list. You can see here that in dictionary, we can give our own keys, whereas in list, it is a predefined value. Okay, whether 0, 1, 2, or if I go from the back side, it is -1, -2, -3, and henceforward. Okay, so this was one major difference in between the list and the dictionaries. Okay, moving further, we learned about some features which we need to keep in mind for the objective questions. So there we say that it's a set of keys and values, right? We understood this thing better, but with example, like I've got 5 doors and everywhere there's a lock. So I have a set of keys and one key will open one lock only. Okay, so keys have to be unique. Keys cannot repeat. Okay, keys have to be unique. That's one major point to be remembered. Then we say that it is unordered collection because internally the system is storing the data not by a specific order the way we have entered. So we have to remember that it's unordered. It is basically referred by the keys. Now we learned two methods of creating the dictionary. One is when I want to create a blank dictionary that you can see here. The identifying feature of that this dict1 is a dictionary is because I have used curly braces. So curly braces is an indication that I'm talking about a dictionary. Square brackets is an indication that I'm talking about a list. Okay, double quotes is an indication that I'm talking about a string. So these are the basic indications which we have to keep in mind. That's for the blank list. There's nothing inside this. Now, when I want to create a dictionary with my own data and keep it with me, then in that case, I have to enclose my data as you see in the curly braces, and every element is actually having two parts. One is the key, then is this colon, very important, which differentiates the key value from the actual value. And then the actual value or the data what you want to store. So it's a combination of key and a value. Okay, we had done pretty good number of examples also for them yesterday, and that's how we create our dictionary. Okay, then what we did was we discussed about accessing. So major two things we discussed here. One was displaying the entire dictionary. That was by the name of the dictionary, the way we do it for the name of a list also, that I just give the list name and the contents are displayed. I just give any other variable name and the contents are displayed. So if I just quickly kind of show it to you again, if I say A is equal to 10 and I want to see the content of this identifier, I just simply on the shell can give the name of the identifier and I'll get the output of the content. If I kind of use a print statement also, I can get it. Okay. Similarly, when I talk about a list, so here I go saying a list of values stored. Now I want to see the contents at any point of time, entire content. So just by the name, again, being a shell, just by the name, I can give it, I can get the output. Otherwise, my print statement as usual, right? Similarly, for the dictionary also, if I am creating a dictionary like this, name and marks, as shown to you in the presentation also. So if I'm saying it's Gargi scoring 89, it's Mohawk scoring 90, Just 2 elements I've taken. So if that be so, curly braces is the highlight. I know that this is a dictionary by the curly braces itself. Okay. I want to print the contents when I get it. Now, the way I get the elements for the dictionary, individual elements for the dictionary, is by this process. Name of the dictionary, square brackets, to take the key value, whatever is the key value. And if a key value is numeric, you have to pick it up without the quotes. If a key value is string value, then it has to be always with quotes. Okay. Again a point to be highlighted, which I did in the last session also, that if it is a list, the process, the basic format is same. That is name of the list with the square brackets, and within that, what do I give? I give him the index value, which is a default, because you can see here no indexes have been, or no keys have been given to him. So I go by the index value. By now you know that if I say a -3 negative index, will start from the right side, and I'll get the value as 4. So -1, -2, -3. Okay, format you can see is absolutely same. But within the square brackets, when you're accessing the list elements, it is the index. Within the square brackets, when you're accessing the dictionary elements, it is the key. Okay, and because your keys are not same, keys are case sensitive. So whatever you are giving will fetch you one value only, cannot fetch multiple values. Okay, that was something with it. Yeah, obviously, if the key doesn't exist, the name what you're giving, then it will give me a key error, key not found, that kind of a thing. Now, we start with the next thing, that is operations, what all I can do on my dictionaries. This also we had started in the last session. Let me start from there. Now, in this case, first was that I want to check the presence of a value in a dictionary. Okay. I want to check the presence. Now, the dictionary is like a storage of data, right? So that could be 1,000 elements also, 10,000 elements also. Now, I can't go through print after printing to check whether the data is available or not. Then it's completely manual, no point. Now, there's this beautiful thing, membership operator. We've done it in list also. That in direct go, I just have to write, are you there? And he answers me by a true or a false. Yes, I'm there and I'm not there. Okay. Similarly, we did it in list. Same thing we apply in dictionary also, that if supposingly I'm saying, is Mohak available in, obviously you not write is. So it's like what you are searching, that key in the list name. No extra things to be given in the sentence, right? So is it there? He will say false. Now, can you tell me why is it false? Mohawk is that? It's Gargi and Mohawk. I said the keys are case sensitive, right? So Mohawk, what is there is with a capital M, not with a small m. So we have to be careful about it, okay? So if I'm assuming that, okay, this key doesn't exist, hence my output is false. Now I want to search for something which is not there. I mean, this was whether it is there. So it returns you true if it is there. Okay, otherwise false. Now the vice versa of that. If I'm saying the same thing, is Mohawk not there? And that I do by saying not in. Is Mohawk not there? This wala Mohawk, the M small one. Yes, he is not there. Hence you get it true. So please remember, this is a very, very typical question which can be asked in the MCQ. That this is a list, this is a question I'm asking using in and not in. So what's my answer? Whether it's true or whether it's false. Just read it the way you do it for an English sentence, you'll get the interpretation automatically. It's not something very difficult. Okay. So that is the use of membership operator once. Next, two things, adding a data, modifying a data. Let's try that too. Now I have this list. I said Gargi with this many marks and Mohawk with this many marks. I want to change Gargi's marks or Mohawk's marks. Okay. Now the way you access, obviously that is the way you access, and then assign the new value. Very simple. I have A is equal to 10. I want to change the value of A as 12. So I'll say A equal to 12. Right? A assigned to 12. So the way you access, assign to the new value. Absolutely simple. So if I'm saying I want to change the change Gargi's marks to 95, so I'll say D Gargi. That's how I access the value of Gargi in the dictionary, from the dictionary. So after I've accessed, I'll say please assign that value to 95. And the value is changed. It's a permanent change. It's not temporary. Simple. Now, supposingly you try to assign something, a key, a value to a key, and that key doesn't exist. Okay. So I try to supposingly talk about accessing the data, Gargi's itself, but with a capital G. Okay. Now the same thing I try to do, capital G equal to 95. Okay. Now what happens is that capital G Gargi doesn't exist. Okay. I know my keys are case sensitive again. So what will happen in this case? He will add the value into this capital Gargi key as 95. Okay, let's check it out. Simple. So if a key exists and you try to update it, try to assign a new value to it, it will be done. If you try to give a value which is not existing, try to give a key which is not existing, mind it, it's not the value I'm talking about, it's the key I'm talking about, then that key will get added into the dictionary. Okay, so adding and modifying, two things over. Next, now is something which maybe we have not referred at all in the past session. That is traversing a dictionary. Or traversing is again a term which is very, very commonly being used for the, in the computer terminology. And traversing actually means going through the entire stuff. Traverse, going through the entire stuff. Okay, so traversing a dictionary means revisiting or visiting every element of the dictionary. Traversing a list, traversing a set of elements is visiting every element one by one. Now, obviously, I'll visit it for a purpose. I want to display, I want to check something. After visiting every element, I want to do something with that data, whatever it is. I need to check it out. Okay. Now, to move around in every, in the dictionary, step by step, we use the thing available for us in the loops, that is for loop. Okay. Now, again here, the way we use the range function to generate my indexes in the list and then access the elements through that. Here you have some inbuilt functions which helps you generate the keys or the values or both together in order to access the elements. Now, what do I need to access my elements in the dictionary? I need the keys, right? Basically the keys. But supposingly while traversing, I want to pick up the key and the value combination both. Okay. In that case, what's my take? Like, how do I do it? Fine. So here I show you two methods that which will help you access every element of the dictionary one by one. One is that I say for I in dict1, assuming that's your dictionary. This particular statement for I in dict1, okay, will work in the manner that I will pick up one by one every key of the dictionary. Okay, every key of the dictionary. Now then inside the loop, what do you want to do with that key? I want to print that key. I want to check something using that key. I want to do something. That's your wish. Traversal can be done easily by this mechanism for I in the name of the dictionary. By that, what is happening? Dictionary one, the name itself is generating all the keys here for me and using it in the loop with I mean the counter variable, whatever, it will fetch one by one the keys. Okay, so I is fetching the key. The first key in my previous example, supposedly, was Gargi. Second was Mohawk. Third was Gargi with a G capital. Okay, so I is for the first time Gargi. Correct? So in the loop, supposingly here, I've taken the example showing you that print I. So what is being printed? Gargi is being printed. Then there's a dash. That's a text I'm giving. So I display that also. It's within code, so it is displayed as it is. Followed by this thing. Now this is going to do what? This says dictionary name square brackets the index name, right? This method or this way, we actually extract the information available at that index, right? Simple. We said D square brackets Gargi. That's what we are doing. Instead of D, I'm saying dict1. Instead of Gargi, I'm giving the variable which contains Gargi in the square bracket. So this should get me the value, right? So this is a simple loop which I've created by which I'm able to print all the elements of the dictionary. Key dash value, key dash value, accessing the elements one by one. Now you'll say that, ma'am, why the hell are we doing it when we are getting this particular output by simply printing the or typing the name of the dictionary? Very true. But we have to learn this method in order to do something more than just printing the elements. Now, supposingly I want to check for one individual person's marks and then display that. So, मुझे तो उसको extract करना पड़ेगा one by one to do it. Na? I cannot do it by directly printing it. Correct? So, for that reason, this process is important. Okay, I'll just show to you practically also. Let's take up the second way of doing it. The second way of doing it is using a method, an inbuilt method of dictionary, that is items. Now we come to the methods later, all the methods which we have to do, but from there I've picked up here one which I require now, that is items method. Now items method is even more one step ahead, than this, just the name. Item method picks up a combination of key and value separately for every element one by one when I'm using that in the loop. Otherwise, directly if I say, like if I go to my ideally here and I just say simply that this is my dictionary t dot items. Can you see it is generating the same data in a tuple format, actually little differently, but a combination of both the elements, the key and the value. Okay, this is what items give me. Now I'm going to utilize this functionality of items in my loop, and the beauty of that, the way it's being implemented is that if I'm using two counter variables, automatically step by step for every element of the dictionary, step one, the key is being picked up in I and the value is picked up in J for the first element. The loop continues and it picks up the second key and the second element corresponding to that, value corresponding to that, automatically. Okay. Now, after that, what do you want to do with this I and J is again your wish. Here I'm simply printing. We'll actually further do certain things by which we can implement that. Okay. Now let me just show it to you that what I'm trying to say. And for that, let me take what I already have. That is my this dictionary. I don't have to type it again, right? Okay. So this is the dictionary. Let me add one more element. Elements are separated by comma. The key value pair is separated by colon. Again, an objective question. Okay. So here I'm suppose saying Jatin, and he's got 76%. Okay, this is my dictionary. Now what I'm saying for I in D. I'm not using items here. First I'm using the basic pattern. Print I followed by, like, this gives you the flexibility to do something of your own also while printing even. Rather than directly printing the name, giving the name of the dictionary, we'll just give the data altogether. There you get a flexibility to format it, to add some your own elements, to check something, all that you could do, right? So here I'm saying, suppose, okay, print I. So I will give the first key. So Gargi is there. So Gargi, and after that I can kind of give a text saying has scored, and followed by that I need the value at the key I, correct? So that will be D of I. So I was able to format it, which I cannot do when I'm generally printing the whole dictionary in one go. Okay, line by line, because every print will be executed in a separate line. So I get that value. Let's check it out, whether I'm getting the way I'm saying or not. Okay, so let me just take it as ddict and execute. See, obviously this I couldn't have done if I'm directly printing. So that's the advantage of using this kind of a loop. It gives you the flexibility basically. Because obviously I will not always want just accessing, printing all the elements. If there are 100 elements, 1 lakh elements, obviously I don't want all the things to be printed. What's the point like that? I might be searching for something. I might want to check out something. I want maybe to just see that, okay, who all have got more than 50%, and just get their keys, their names, whatever my requirement is. Okay. So there, this iteration, this loop, this traversing will help me, the method of traversing. Okay. This was the first one. The second one is, like, here I have to use I like this, right? But the second method says that, let me put this in comment so that we have this also handy later. The second method is that I take two variables and my d dot items function, it's items, still minded, it's not item. Items method of dictionary will have as the first step as I Gargi J 89. Second iteration, I will be Mohawk, J will be 90. Okay, like that. So here maybe I do the same thing as of now initially. Okay, instead of D of I, now here I don't have to really implement that D of I just directly write J. So let us check, do I get the same output or not? I did some garbage. Oh, sorry. So single line comment given, but here I have the second line part of the code outside the indent, so all goes wrong. So what I do is I give a multi-line comment. We are pretty used to that now, right? Okay, let's execute it. Absolutely same output, differently done, right? Now supposingly certain variations which I can do to it. Now I don't want everybody's marks to be printed like this. What I want is I only want to check for somebody's marks. So that is, suppose I'm saying Mohawk. Now very simple, I will be having the key always. So I'll directly check if I is equal to Mohawk. Then only print the marks. Otherwise, don't do it. Right? Let's check out that. So this way I can maybe check for J also. Only display the I's of those, I means the keys of those who have scored more than 50% or 70% or 90%, something like that. That also I can do. Okay, let's try that code too. So I'm just copy pasting. Now fetching is same. Now what I have to check? I have to check whether the marks is more than a specified value. That specified value, as of now, I'm taking static, which is supposedly above 75. So Jatin should not be displayed. No, above 80. So Jatin should not be displayed. I'm saying if J, so I have directly in that value is more than 70 or 80. Okay, then only display this content. Otherwise, don't display it. Right? So here we go and execute and see that. Why is it displaying it twice? Mohawk scored 90 and then again Guardian Mohawk scored 8990 because I did not make this a comment. So this part was also executed and the first line is actually the output of this part and the second two lines are the output of this part. I hope that's clear. Otherwise, I can just kind of close this part and it will not be executed and then just do it. Right? Now, this is again static. It will always check for 80. It will always check for Mohawk. Now we can have programs done where we take the input from the user. Let user tell me which name I want to search. Let user tell me which percentage range you want to check or count, like how many people have scored. So I can have the count code implemented like that. Okay. So those are the variations which we do further in the next class. For today, this much is enough. Next step for you is to practice this kind of a thing. Okay. I hope it's clear. We'll do programs in the next class and further on we do the methods because these methods are very important, very handy, I should say. Very, very handy. Okay. Okay then. Thank you. Do practice these things. Thanks a lot.